my name's Ron Pierce. I'm the President and CEO of RSA Consulting Group, and welcome to Lobby Talk. Thank you once again for the opportunity for tuning in. One of the reasons we're doing this is because we really wanted to give our clients an opportunity to kind of get behind the scenes look at what happened in Tallahassee during a committee week or during session, and not only give kind of behind the scenes look, but also more importantly share with them what happened and why. So we're in committee week number 3, and I think it's important for you to kind of hear about what happened, but also what we're working on in Tallahassee for our client base as well. So really busy week in Tallahassee. We had four clients or groups in town that we hosted. Number one, we had the legislative internship program from USF. We had 11 students as a part of the LIP program at USF come in. As many of you know, I teach that class, and as a part of that class, I teach like a local and state government class. And I think a highlight of that trip for them is to come to Tallahassee and experience their state government firsthand. So they had a number of meetings over Wednesday and Thursday, and we're really glad to host them every year. Number 2, we had STRAS. We had Donna from the STRAS Center in town. The STRAS Center is in the process of working on a master plan. They're looking for funding out of Tallahassee, as well as the County Commission and City Council. So having them in Tallahassee to meet with our delegation and talk about a little bit about what they're working on and why, and what the funding would go to next year. We also had Film Tampa Bay in town. Having Tyler in town as the Hillsborough County Film Commissioner, I think was really good timing because there is a bill relating to that industry that was filed this week in Tallahassee in the Florida Senate. So having him in town to talk about the importance of the film industry from an economic development standpoint and what it means to not only Tampa Bay, but also from a statewide standpoint. And last but not least, we had David Green, who's the executive director of TBARTA in town. And he had a number of meetings. I think he ended up with 19 meetings of members of the Bay Area legislative delegation. And he was in town for a couple of reasons. Number one, to thank them for what the legislature did last year to support TBARTA, but also talk about a couple of asks they have this year. One, again, is an appropriations ask. And number 2 is a piece of legislation relating to their Enabling Act. So busy week for the RSA team, having those members and those clients and groups in town. And I'll be honest with you, it's one of the highlights of our work in Tallahassee is having people in Tallahassee and being able to work with them and advocate on their behalf on issues that we care about, they care about, that make our community better. We ended with TBARTA and STRAS because I want to talk a little bit about the appropriations process. So we're committee week number 3 of 6. Session starts on January the 14th, as all of you know. It's really important as you're talking about these local appropriations, or if you ask in Tallahassee, to understand the process. I mean, number one, something that started a couple years ago under then Speaker Corcoran, is you have to now file a bill relating to your appropriations issue. So making sure that you've got a House sponsor lined up, making sure that you have all the information to them to be able to enter into the House system is really important. It's not really due until the middle of November, but we really work with our clients to have our team submit them by the end of the month. I think I'm proud to report that I think all of our appropriations requests are in at this point and are in the process of being filed by the respective House sponsors. In addition, the Senate does have an application process as well. That doesn't need to be done until later in the process, but again, you need to make sure that House and the Senate applications kind of line up and get that support early. As you're doing that, I think it's also really important, once you file that with the House and Senate, is really letting your legislative delegation then know about the projects. So making sure that you kind of build support of your local delegation to understand the importance of what it means to the community, why it's important to that client, and what they can do more importantly to support your project as we get farther in the committee process, and more importantly, farther in the appropriations process as well. Once you do all of that, I think it's really important to understand the process and making sure that there's a few key decision makers in each of the respective subcommittees, working with them to build support, working with them to understand how many asks you may have within that respective subcommittee, and then more importantly, making sure that you have members of the delegation working with those respective subcommittee chair and vice chairs to help get these projects funded early in the appropriations process. As we go into committee week number 4 in a couple of weeks, there hasn't been a lot of bills that have been filed. So let's kind of switch over to the public policy side of the equation here in Tallahassee. You haven't seen a lot of bills that have been filed, particularly on the House side. You haven't seen a lot of bills filed. I would suspect you'll see more bills filed over the next couple of weeks. The bills that have been filed, there haven't been a number of them referred to this point. So because of that, I'll be honest with you, as you look at the first 3 committee weeks, there haven't been a whole lot of bills that have moved during in the committee process. So I would think over the next couple of weeks you'll start seeing a lot more bills that are filed in the process. And the reason that's important is you need your bills filed and referenced over the next couple of weeks is because the average bill in the House and Senate typically would get 3 committees of reference. And on the House side, subcommittees or if you look at the subcommittees, and some of the committees actually stop meeting after week 4 or week 5 of session. So if you do the math, if you have 3 committees of reference, you'd really like to get one of your bills heard, at least if one of his first committees were referenced in one of the committee weeks, and then have those last 2 committees referenced during the first 4 or 5 weeks of session to be able to try to get it to a floor vote if you can. So we've been working with a couple of clients that have bills to get them filed. Hopefully they'll be referred in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll work with our bill sponsors to try to get those bills up in the first committee of reference, ideally in one of the November committee weeks. It's been a historic week in the Florida Senate. As many of you know, the Senate went into a special session this week to have a debate about reinstating or not reinstating Sheriff Israel as the sheriff of Broward County. Florida Senate voted on a 25-15 vote to not reinstate him, so he has officially been removed as the sheriff in Broward County. This is historic. This has not happened in Tallahassee in a number of years. Started off with a lengthy Rules Committee debate on Monday, and the recommendation of the Rules Committee to not reinstate was again just adopted. Look forward to catching up with everybody again during the next committee week, which is in 2 weeks. So next week we'll actually be back in Tampa Bay, and then the following week we'll be back in Tallahassee for committee week number 4. We'll actually be back in Tallahassee for another committee week right after that. So I think you'll see a lot more public policy and appropriations related issues start moving in November as we head into the last committee week in December. So thank you everybody for tuning in to Lobby Talk. We appreciate you tuning in, and we look forward to talking to you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you.